Frieza sits patiently and swirls his wine as he awaits Zarbon and Dodoria to return with the Saiyans. As suddenly, Raditz and an unconscious Kakarot enter the room with Zarbon right behind. Frieza asks, "Where is Nappa?" So Zarbon relays, "The Saiyan Nappa was still healing from the last mission. I sent Dodoria to retrieve him at your leisure, my lord."
Excellent. Now back to you two monkeys.
Raditz began to meekly apologize for him and Kakarot's disobedience, as they were told to never wander the ship without direct orders to do so. But Frieza jovially waved off Raditz's words, with Zarbon grabbing Kakarot, demanding him to awaken. As he does so, and instantly he gets on guard at the sight of Frieza. But after seeing Raditz in the attention stands, Kakarot gets in it as well. But he was curious to why Frieza was so happy. This was the first time being so close to Frieza, and the feeling he got from the tyrant had the Saiyans shaking in fear. The Emperor began asking Kakarot, was he terrified, as the latter chose not to answer. But Dodoria and Nappa finally entered the quarters. Zarbon pushed Nappa to the ground, commanding him to kneel. Kakarot tries to step to Nappa's defense, but Raditz quickly intervened, holding Kakarot back. So Frieza began asking Nappa, did he know of Prince Vegeta's current whereabouts? The brutish Saiyan informed Frieza that he figured the prince had died when planet Vegeta was destroyed. Frieza retorts that he assumed the same, but recent news has suggested otherwise, and maybe the prince has somehow survived the destruction of the planet. Nappa looks up devastated, but remained composed. So Frieza had told the Saiyans to keep an ear out for more intel on the prince's possible survival, while simultaneously giving them orders for their next mission until releasing them. "Sire, excuse my impudence, but do you think it was wise to provide those Saiyans with that sort of information regarding the destroyed homeworld? If they ever caught on to the truth, it could spell disaster." Frieza chuckled.
Don't be so rash, Zarbon. Those apes don't have the slightest clue about my hand in their world's destruction. Besides, even if they were to spark some sort of rebellion, it would mean nothing to my might. As for the Saiyan Prince, let's keep that subject on wraps until further details arrive. Are we clear?
"Crystal, my lord." Back at Orange Star High, Vegeta began to get increasingly agitated by the second. The suppressed feelings and guilt from being unable to save his mother or father all those years ago. He also left his adopted father in harm's way. It was starting to weigh in on him. The memories, they were returning. His existence was once of pure chaos and destruction. The Prince of all Saiyans. He was once the mighty until Vegeta began hearing his name repeatedly. It got louder and louder until the young Saiyan snapped out of the trance to see Bulma running towards him in shock. And once she reached him, she urgently pulled him aside, asking why was he at her school, relaying that if he wanted to see her again, he could have just called in advance. And before she could say another word, Vegeta pulled out the hat he found at his grandpa's hut and asked if the insignia looked familiar. Bulma frantically looks at the hat. She didn't recognize the cap, but the badge reminded her of an organization she had recently heard about around campus. Vegeta still was left with questions, so he decided to visit the old Roshi for some possible info. And of course, Bulma tagged along. And once they arrived, Vegeta noticed Krillin sparring with what seemed to be a girl, a familiar one at that. But Vegeta didn't have time to sit and recollect. He had to find Roshi. And once he finally found the old hermit relaxing on his beach chair, Vegeta had asked Roshi if he could identify the logo. So Roshi thinks back and remembers a military force that once had that particular brand, but he says they are an evil organization, hell-bent on world conquest, precisely what the prince assumed. He thanked his master before preparing to leave, until Bulma blurted out,
"And just where you think you're going, mister?"
"It's none of your concern, Bulma. I'll be back soon. Stay on the island. I'll explain everything once I return." "Vegeta, is that you?" two voices had blurted out. The prince aggressively turned to see his friend Krillin and the familiar girl who Master Roshi revealed as his newest student, Chi-Chi. Vegeta was shell-shocked as he now remembered who she was, the girl from Fire Mountain. And before any more words were exchanged, the prince blasted off in search of the wicked army. Bulma looked on apprehensively. Vegeta scoured the sky in search of anything resembling a military base or the logo of that army. But up ahead, the Pilaf gang floats upon the sky in a flying fortress. Noting, Pilaf still had his castle intact due to Vegeta never transforming as Goku did in canon. I just thought I'd throw that in For people who were wondering, Pilaf excitedly jumped around at the thought of collecting another Dragon Ball. He currently had 2 in his possession, 4-star ball and a 3-star ball, until Vegeta crashes through the ship, scaring the hell out of the crew. And as the sky's intense winds began shutting the fortress systems down, Vegeta stood upright as he demanded to know of a military army that was terrorizing cities and hurting old men. But the horrified crew had no idea what the prince was going on about, explaining that they were just collecting Dragon Balls for a project, nothing bad or anything, while the crew comically tried to hide them. So Vegeta took the Dragon Balls from the Pilaf gang as the flying fortress went crashing down. A bit harsh, but just in case, the prince decided to collect them for emergency purposes. And as he continued his long investigation, Vegeta began thinking to himself,
if Bulma were here, finding these Dragon Balls would have been more of a breeze.
Until hastily, a burning forest fire was starting to spread up rapidly. So quickly, Vegeta plummeted below into the fire, looking for what could have caused it. To the prince's surprise, he witnessed what looked like a squadron burning down the forest. He noticed a little monkey holding a 5-star ball, trying to make its way out of the burning trees. And once it finally reached freedom, 2 soldiers had caught the little chimpanzee, putting their weapon to his face. They prepared to end the little monkey's life, cruelly. But suddenly, the monkey was gone. The soldiers looked stunned profusely as they promptly met face to face with the Saiyan prince, Vegeta. Vegeta glared at their badges for demanding to know if they were a part of an army. They both foolishly blurted out that they were Red Ribbon Army soldiers. So without another word, one soldier began shooting his weapon in hopes of ending Vegeta, but to no avail. The prince merely caught each of the bullets Goku style.
Now take me to your boss. I know you have one. Every soldier does.
Something the prince knew from his distant memory of Planet Vegeta, and so Vegeta was taken to Colonel Silver. Once they arrived back to camp, Silver immediately wished to know if they incorporated the Dragon Ball. So Vegeta appears from behind them, saying, "Right here with me. You want it? Come and take it." So Colonel Silver gets into a stance, not being able to sense ki, so he assumed this was just some heroic fighter looking to seek an early death. And once the colonel sent a blow at Vegeta's way, the prince took the punch head on, only to not be fazed in the slightest. Colonel Silver looked on surprised until sending a barrage of punches in the prince's way. Vegeta stood upright, tanking each as if it were nothing. Silver began to pant a little, saying, "How could you still be standing right now? Haven't you heard of me? I'm an undefeated boxer. No one has been able to take my blows and still be standing."
Are you serious? Your power level isn't even worth a glance at. The slaps from my girlfriend tingle more than this.
Silver was now in a rage. He began to throw more punches at an alarming rate, refusing to believe that Vegeta was more powerful than himself. Silver retorted that when he fought an older man, he displayed more of a fight than the prince. But Vegeta caught the punch of Silver, staring him down with a look that could cut through butter.
What did you just say? So it was you who nearly killed my master.
Silver looked on confused until the prince, without mercy, tossed the colonel into the air and powered up a super Kamehameha and instantly vaporized Silver in one blast.
That was for you, Master Grandpa Gohan.
Nappa was facing off with Bojack, the last survivor from the Saiyans' attack. Raditz flew in to aid Nappa, but the brute Saiyan insisted on finishing the remaining warrior alone.
I'll end this quickly.
So Nappa tapped into everything he had and powered up his aura to the max. And once Bojack charged in for his final assault, Nappa smiled and unleashed a volcano explosion attack, promptly finishing the warrior and sending the breeze hurling out into the distance. Kakarot and Raditz rushed in to Nappa's aid. He was a bit beaten up, but managed to get the job done. Kakarot congratulated the giant Saiyan until Nappa had mentioned that he may be still alive, so Kakarot should end him. The young Saiyan walked over to the crater until flying up and charging the Bomber DX, taught to him by Nappa, and callously ended Bojack in one sweep, leaving not a trace behind. Nappa and Raditz congratulated Kakarot as he flew down. Kakarot was now demanding to take on both Saiyans at one time. He wanted to test something, with both Saiyans reciprocating with a smile as they charged in and inclined to take on the young Kakarot. Thanks for watching, guys. For more content like this, remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Stay safe, and I'll see y'all in the next whatever.